We've done a great deal of work and collected a lot of information, and I want to hear your story. You've told it to other people. But, again, and the information more clearly.
Okay.
However, before I do, I would like to advise you of your rights.
It's sounding very ominous.
You have the right to remain absolutely silent. You don't have to answer any questions or do anything. However, if you do answer any questions or do anything that would tend to incriminate you, that could be used against you. Now, you have the right to consult with counsel before answering any questions, and that can be civilian counsel or military counsel. Civilian, it would be at your own expense. If it's military, it can be of your own choosing. Even if you decide to answer questions at this time, that doesn't mean that you can't stop at any time. Mr. MacDonald, now, do you desire counsel at this time?
No.
Just go ahead and tell us your story.
Let's see. Monday night, my wife went to bed and I was reading. And I went to bed about somewheres around 2 o'clock. I really don't know. I was reading on the couch and my little girl Christy had gone into bed with my wife. And I went in to go to bed and the bed was wet. She had wet the bed on my side, so I brought her in her own room. And I don't remember if I changed her or not. Gave her a bottle and went out to the couch because my bed was wet and I went to sleep on the couch. And then the next thing I know, I heard some screaming, at least my wife. But I thought I heard Kimmy, my older daughter, screaming also. And I sat up. The kitchen light was on and I saw some people at the foot of the bed. So I don't know if I really said anything or I was getting ready to say something. This happened real fast. You know, when you talk about it, it sounds like it took forever, but it didn't take forever. And so I sat up, and at first I thought I just could see 3 people, and I don't know if I heard the girl first, Martin, I think I saw her first. I think 2 of the men separated sort of at the end of my couch, and all I saw was some people, really. And this guy started walking down between the coffee table and the couch, and he raised something over his head, and just sort of all together, I just got a glance of this girl with kind of a light on her face. I don't know if it was a flashlight or a candle, but it looked to me like she was holding something. And I just remember that my instinctive thought was that she's holding a candle. What the hell is she holding a candle for? But she said, before I was hit the first time, "Kill the pigs. Acid's groovy." Now that's all. That's all I think I heard before I was hit the first time. And the guy hit me in the head. So I was knocked back on the couch, and then I started struggling to get up. And I could hear it all then. Now I could. Maybe it's really, I don't know if I was repeating to myself what she just said or if I kept hearing it, but I heard, acid is groovy. Kill the pigs. And I started to struggle up, and I noticed 3 men now. And I think the girl was kind of behind them, either on the stairs or at the foot of the couch behind them. And the guy on my left was a colored man, and he hit me again. But at the same time, I was kind of struggling. And these 2 men, I thought, were punching me at the same time. Then I remember thinking to myself that, see, I work out with a boxing glove sometimes. And I kept, geez, that guy throws a hell of a punch, because he punched me in the chest. And I got this terrible pain in my chest. And so I was struggling, and I got hit on the shoulder or the side of the head again. And so I turned and I grabbed this guy's, whatever it was. I thought it was a baseball bat at the time. And I was holding it. I was kind of working up it to hold on to it. Meanwhile, both these guys were kind of hitting me, and all this time I was hearing screams. That's what I can't figure out. So let's see, so I saw and all I got a glimpse was some stripes. I told you, I think they were E6 stripes. There was one bottom rocker, and it was an Army jacket, and that man was a colored man. And the 2 other men, were white. And I didn't really notice too much about them. And so I kind of struggled. And I was kind of off balance, and because I was still halfway on the couch and half off, and I was holding on to this thing, and I kept getting this pain either in, like sort of in my stomach, and he kept hitting me in the chest. And so I let go of the club, and I was grappling with him, and I was holding his hand in my hand, and I saw, a blade. I didn't know what it was. I just saw something that looked like a blade at the time. And so then I concentrated on him. We were kind of struggling in the hallway right there at the end of the couch. And then really the next distinctive thing, I thought that I noticed that I saw some legs, that not covered, like I saw the top of some boots. And I thought that I saw knees as I was falling. But it wasn't what was in the papers that I saw white boots. I never saw white muddy boots. I saw some knees on the top of boots, and I told, I think, the investigators, I thought they were brown, as a matter of fact. And the next thing I remember, though, was lying on the hallway floor, and I was freezing cold, and it was very quiet, and my teeth were chattering, and I went down and to the bedroom, and I was dizzy, I wasn't really real alert, and my wife was lying on the floor next to the bed, and there was a knife in her upper chest. So I took that out, and I tried to give her artificial respiration, but the air was coming out of her chest. So I went and checked the kids, and just a minute, and there was a lot of blood around. So I went back into the bedroom, and this time I was finding it real hard to breathe, and I was dizzy. So I picked up the phone, and I told this asshole operator that my name was Captain MacDonald, and I was at 544 Castle Drive, and I needed the MPs and a doctor and an ambulance. And she said, "Is this on post or off post?" Something like that. And I started yelling at her. I said, finally, I told her it was on post, and she said, "Well, you'll have to call the MPs." So I dropped the phone, and I went back, and I checked my wife again. And now I don't know. I assume I was hoping I hadn't seen what I had seen, or I was starting to think more like a doctor. So I went back, and I checked for pulses, carotid pulses and stuff, and there was no pulse on my wife, and I felt I was getting sick to my stomach, and I was short of breath, and I was dizzy, and my teeth were chattering because I was cold. And so I didn't know if I assumed I was going into shock because I was cold. That's one of the symptoms of shock. You start getting chills. So I got down on all fours, and I was breathing for a while. Then I realized that I had talked to the operator and nothing really had happened with her. But in any case, when I went back to check my wife, I then went to check the kids. And a couple times I had to, thinking that I was going into shock and not being able to breathe. Now when I look back, of course, it's merely a symptom, that shortness of breath. You weren't really that bad, but that's what happens when you get a pneumothorax. You think you can't breathe. And I had to get down on my hands and knees and breathe for a while. And then I went in and checked the kids and checked their pulses and stuff. And I don't know if it was the first time I checked them or the second time I checked them, to tell you the truth, but I had all, blood on my hands, and I had little cuts in here, and my head hurt. So when I reached up to feel my head, my hands were bloody. And so I think it was the second circuit, because by that time I was thinking better, I thought. And I went into the bathroom right there and looked in the mirror, and nothing looked wrong. I mean, there wasn't really even a cut or anything. So then I went out in the hall. I couldn't breathe. So I was on my hands and knees in the hall, and it kept hitting me that really nothing had been solved when I called the operator. And so I went in, and that was in the middle of the hallway there. And I went the other way. I went into the kitchen, picked up that phone, and the operator was on the line. My other phone had never been hung up. And she was still on the line, and she said, "Is this Captain MacDonald?" I said, "Yes, it is." And she said, "Just a minute." And there was some dial tones and stuff, and then the sergeant came on, and he said, Can I help you?" So I told him that I needed a doctor and an ambulance, and that some people had been stabbed, and that I thought I was going to die. And he said, "They'll be right there." So I left the phone, and I remember going back to look again, and the next thing I knew, an MP was giving me mouth-to-mouth respiration next to my wife. Now, I remember I don't know if it was the first or second trip into the bedroom to see my wife, but I saw the back door was open, but that's immaterial, I guess. That's it.
When you woke up, what? There were 3 men there?
The first time, you mean when I was on the couch?
Yes.
Right. Well, yeah. Now sir, let me say one thing now. When you say something, it sounds cut and dried, but this thing happened. I'm sure it didn't take more than 8 or 10 seconds when I think about it. I've been in fights before, and Christ, you think it's an eternity. And when it's over, it's less than a minute. But I'm sure this was a matter of seconds, and it was dark. And I think it was 3 men, right? Because I remember struggling specifically with 3 people in front of me and seeing a 4th, seeing the girl. And really all I saw of her was some long, stringy blonde hair and a big hat.
You say this man with the sergeant's stripes on came toward you. Where did he strike you first? On the head?
Right. I was just sitting in bed. I was just getting ready to say something like, "What the hell are you? What's going on here?" When I could hear the screaming. And really, it isn't a matter of like running at me or anything, because it was only a step. The point is, he was closer than the others. And I remember thinking that he was raising something, and I really didn't even defend myself. It was really too fast. I just sort of sat up, and as I looked and saw these people, he was doing this at really the same time, and he hit me. And they weren't shouting or anything. There wasn't any, she wasn't jumping up and down and screaming, "Kill them." The point was, it all seemed, when you see it like in Easy Rider, I made the mistake of going to see that film. They have all these stop action things. Well, that's what it was like. All I really see is these real fast glimpses of what happened.
Captain MacDonald, you told one of the other investigators earlier that you were wearing a pajama top that was pulled over your head or something like that.
Right? Well, all I know is that, well, when I was struggling now, after I had been hit the first time, I was struggling with these guys. And somehow my pajama top, I don't know if it was ripped forward or pulled over my head. I don't remember actually, like backing my head through it. But all of a sudden it was around my hands and it was in my way. And I remember that I was holding this thing in my hand, the guy's hand, that I couldn't maneuver very well. My hands were kind of wrapped up in the thing, and they were punching me. I was kind of using that a little bit, holding it right, exactly. Because this guy, I thought, was really punching me in the chest, and in the stomach, because I was getting hit across here. So in effect, I was blunting everything by, holding this up, and I couldn't get my hands free out of the thing. And I remember I ended up, when I was laying on the floor, I forgot to say that, when I woke up it was still around my hands and everything, and I took it off as I was going in the bedroom. And after I took this knife out of my wife's chest, keeping her warm, to treat shock that would be, and keep them warm.
Was Colette alive then?
I didn't think so, sir, because medically, I don't think she could have been, because when I gave her mouth to mouth, I remember distinctly the bubbles were coming out of her chest. So her chest wall wasn't, if it's not intact, you breathe by expanding your chest wall, and it pulls your lung out by a vacuum, and if the vacuum is broken, you can't breathe. I mean, I didn't think of all that then. I'm just saying that I don't think she was alive because she was just lying there very still and made no response at all. And I didn't check her pulse initially. All I did was see her and take the knife out of her chest and breathe into her mouth, really. So, I don't know, but I assume not. She just, I've seen a lot of dead people and you can,
Did you try to move her anyplace? You said something about elevating her feet. Would you go through that?
Geez, I don't know, sir. I don't think so. I mean, maybe there's a green chair there. Maybe she was leaning against it. I don't remember specifically, no. But, if she was lying a little crooked in my compulsive manner, I might have straightened her out or something. But I honestly don't remember that. I can't say yes to that. I don't remember moving her. I remember, later on, when I was checking for pulses and stuff, you check femoral and carotids and wrist. And, so I had to move her limbs probably. But I don't think I moved her body at all.
Do you have an idea how long you were lying there unconscious?
Geez, no.
Nothing.
No, I have no idea. All I know is when I looked at my, medical records and stuff and they told me what my blood pressure was, I couldn't have been unconscious from shock. It had to be from a, blow on the head. And so, in other words, this chilling that I was shaking was not from shock, and it must have been the temperature. So it must have cooled off. That's all I can tell you. As I go over it myself in my own mind, it had to take a while to get me cold enough to have shaking chills, so my teeth were shaking. That's a real chill, in contrast to people when they say they're chilly. So, if I wasn't in shock, the only thing I can say is, as I've worked it over 6 million times, that it must have gotten cold enough in there that I was cold just from the cold. It probably would be 0 degrees Celsius.
Do you think it was from the door being open?
Right, that's what I mean.
How do you control the temperature in this house? Because it was real warm when we got there.
Oh, Jesus, I don't know. Well, the heat's always on. We just turn some of the radiators off if it gets too hot.
You just turn the radiators off to control the temperature?
Right. Right, and open windows, and we don't have any thermostat in the house. If the windows are kept closed and the radiators are left on, it gets unbearable in there. It's too hot.
What part of the hallway were you laying in?
Originally?
Yeah?
Down near the end. Down near the couch end.
Where did the struggle actually take place when you were struggling with these 3 men?
Right at the end of the end. Right at the foot of the couch.
Right at the foot of the couch.
This was not a big deal, I was not James Bond like all my readings. It didn't work out the way it's supposed to work out. Come charging through.
Were the 3 men involved in this initial assault?
Yeah, well, they were. Yeah. I mean, it was not. I remember, it was just kind of a scene around me that I was grabbing things and holding on, basically. And I remember at one time when I let go of this club that, I tried to hit a couple people, and I think I hit the guy with the club once, but nothing very spectacular, let me tell you.
Do you think you hit him with your fist, too?
Fists, I really grabbed. I got grabbing, and I thought at the time that, I was grabbing him on the...
Right there at that spot. We have to be real clinical with you, Captain MacDonald.
Right.
Do you understand that? Because this brings back painful memories to you, I know. But we have to be specific as long as you can. We found some disturbance there, and it looked like some kind of struggle had probably gone on. If I remember right, you just said that you were sitting down, half standing, half sitting there at the couch and struggling at one point. Is that right?
Right.
So that would put a man between you and the coffee table, so to speak. Right there or something.
Yeah, right.
So this would probably account for the coffee table being in that position that it was in, knocked over and moved around. There was something else I wanted to ask you, too. You went to the bathroom to clean yourself up a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, I assume so. That seems a little ridiculous, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
But yeah.
Did you check yourself to see if you were hurt?
Well, originally, yeah, but I went to see what kind of head injury I had, because I remember my head hurt like crazy. And then I knew I wasn't thinking entirely correctly, because I'm always, in the emergency room. I know I'm good in the emergency room. I never, lose my cool, so to speak.
What kind of head injury did you have?
Oh, I just seemed to have a little bump on this head, and I had pain back here and a little lump back here. It wasn't very exciting. It wasn't what I, expected.
Did you check your side there?
Yeah, that was bubbling. That was dash, dash, dash.
Bubbling?
Yeah, there was bubbles coming out of that. And I had to tell the idiot over in Womack 3 times. I mean, yeah, nevertheless, and that's not important.
Go ahead and tell us.
Well, when I kept saying I couldn't breathe, and he says, you can breathe. So I say, I'm telling you I can't breathe. It hurts to breathe. And I was short of breath. I knew I was breathing, Now, that sometimes is a symptom rather than for real. In other words, you might not be that short of breath, but your body reacts as though it is. And when you get a pneumothorax, that's one of the things that happens. You breathe fast and feel as though you can't breathe in, you can breathe. So I said to him, I can't breathe. I need oxygen. I can't breathe. And so they were looking me over, and there was just a little trickle of blood here and a whole bunch of little puncture marks across my abdomen. And I guess we ended up with 14 of them or something like that. And there was a little cut here.
Was this from these assailants? These people that were in the house?
Well, I assume so.
You didn't do it yourself, did you?
No. So they said to me, well, we'll have to get an x-ray. So we got an x-ray, and he came back and said, the x-ray looks good. And when your chest is bubbling, you have a pneumothorax. I mean, if you take a breath and bubbles come out, it's very simple. Any Special Forces medic knows that, and any nurse knows that, and they'll put a chest tube in. In Cape Fear, they know when a chest tube has to go in before you even see the patient. And I said, I don't know about you guys. I said, but my chest hurts like hell, and I can't breathe, and it's bubbling. Now that to me, that means I have a pneumothorax with a puncture in the lung. In other words, it won't bubble unless the lung has been punctured. And so Dr. Jacobson came over and he says, take a deep breath. And I took a deep breath and it was bubbling. And he says, hey, you need a chest tube. So I said, Dick Tracy, but that's beside the point. He's okay. He's a good guy.
When you came out of the bathroom, you had probably gone back to your bedroom. I said, probably. Is that what you did?
I assume so, right?
While you were at it, did you take this bath mat out of the linen closet then? There was a bath mat laying over your wife, partially.
A bath mat?
A heavy towel or bath mat. It depends on what you want to use it for. It's from the Hilton Hotels.
Oh, we have some bath. We had some towels from the Hilton Hotel. I don't remember that at all.
You don't remember seeing it?
I don't, when I covered her up, there was probably some things. There's usually a pile of laundry in that green chair right there. My wife isn't as compulsive as I am about keeping things straight, and I specifically don't remember that, no. A bath mat or a Hilton towel, but I know I was covering her up with things. I assumed it was just night clothes that were laying there, and my pajama top. I don't specifically remember the Hilton towels. But if it was laying there, I picked it up and put it over her because I was getting her warm.
When you took this femoral pulse on your wife, did you remove her clothing at all, or was it through her pajamas?
I didn't remove any clothing. It was either through the pajamas or, I just pulled them apart, pulled them aside and felt for it. I didn't remove any clothing. I might have just felt through. You can feel it right through. I can feel my own.
It's a big artery there, isn't it? Femoral artery?
Femoral artery. That's where you feel the pulses.
Was there a pulse?
No.
Captain MacDonald, can you go back over the sequence of your movements through the house for me? From the living room, through the hallway. And then what? You say you were unconscious at the end of the hallway.
Okay.
Can you trace the sequence of your movements from that point?
I went into the bedroom, the first thing, saw my wife, took out the knife, that stuff, and then I checked the kids before I made the first phone call once. But it was real brief. I really probably only looked at them. And Dash.
Do you know which bedroom you went in first?
Which I went in first? Probably Kimmy's. Kimmy's, the older one. The front bedroom, and went back into the... Now, I don't know if I went in the bathroom on my first or second trip. I went around this little circuit a couple of times, okay? But I think I told the guys then too. But I'm not sure if I told them that or not. But I don't remember which time I went in the bathroom. I went back and then I used the phone. At one time, I at least walked into the laundry room and looked out the back door. I remember, I don't know what was first and what was second on these trips. I did, a couple of things, into the bathroom and then out to the back door. I think it was all the second trip. I think the first trip I went into that's the way it sounds to me. Sounds right. I went in and saw my wife and checked the kids, came back in the master bedroom and used the phone. And then I was getting on my hands and knees and getting short of breath. I kept thinking that I'm not doing anything that I'm supposed to be doing and no one knows about it. And then I realized I hadn't checked and I didn't know if there was any pulse or anything. And so I checked my wife and I went probably to Kimmy's bedroom first again and Christy's bedroom.
What kind of pulse did you check for? Was it the wrist or femoral?
Well, the easiest usually you feel in an injured patient. I usually feel the carotid first because the peripheral ones sometimes go into spasm. And if they have low blood pressure, you can't feel it anywhere. So I usually check these, so I'm sure I checked that first. It's just instinctive. And,
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
well, I don't know. Well, I really don't know if I checked the femorals on both sides of the kids, quite honestly. I probably checked here and picked up their wrist and possibly checked the femoral, but I'm not sure. So then I was standing in the middle of the hallway after this kind of second trip, and I didn't know what to do. I kept saying to myself, what comes now? And I remember it flashed through my mind to go next door to my idiot neighbor, but I realized that would be futile and,
Why was that?
well, our neighbors she's the kind of a lady that sits in her window with binoculars and watches the girl across the street undress and stuff like that, And she comes over and she says, now, don't leave your windows open because there's a lot of rapists and people around here. We were at a cocktail party one night and she said that and everyone stopped. And I said to her, so I was kind of pulling her chain. So I said, well, how do you know that people look in windows? I mean, you see types of people, and right away this woman so she said, well, because I see her every night, the blonde across the street. And I says, how do you see her every night? She said, I go in my window and watch. And I said, why do you do that? And she said, I swear to God, she said, because it's unnatural for a girl to undress with the blinds up. And I just want to make sure I know what's going on in the neighborhood. But that's beside the point. So that's the type of person that I said, shall I go next door or should I try to call again? And I decided I should try to call again.
How did you maneuver your way down to the phone the second time?
How did I maneuver my way down?
Yes, how did you get there? Were you on your hands and knees getting there, or were you?
No, I don't think I really ever walked anywhere on my hands and knees. I got down on my hands and knees a couple times in the hallway to breathe, and once next to my wife. I probably walked down and,
Did you fall at any time?
I don't remember it. And I picked up the phone. And then after I talked to this Sergeant Smith, or whatever his name was, on the phone, and he said that they were coming as soon as possible. Then I remember I started going back down the hall again. Now look, to be honest with you, I might have gone in the bath if it's important. I don't see how it can be important, but I might have gone into the bathroom on this trip. But I don't think so. I think it was when I was going through the bedrooms the second time. And I remember starting to go down the hall, and really the next thing that's clear is that this MP or medic, I don't know, was giving me respiration, artificial respiration, which I apparently didn't need.
You came to where he was doing it?
Right.
Is that it?
Right.
Yeah, well, it's kind of important, Captain MacDonald, because we have to eliminate people from what you did from other people, the traces that were left in the house, you know.
Right.
That is why I asked you about the bath mat or towel, Hilton Hotel towel, because it's important whether you put it there or somebody else put it there.
Gee, I honestly don't. All I remember is doing myself specifically was my own, taking my own thing off the first time and taking my own pajama top off my arms and stuff and kind of laying it across her, and kind of a stupid attempt to,
You didn't move it again after that?
I don't think so, no.
It was found there.
It was?
Yes.
If they're, say, this bath mat or towel, which do you want to call it? A towel or a bath mat?
What? A towel? I mean the Hilton Hotel. Oh, I know what you mean. It looks like it's a towel, a terry cloth. It's a bath mat thing. It's from the hotel.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember doing that. I'm just saying I remember what it is now.
If it were across your wife's abdomen, you would have noticed it in taking her femoral pulse?
Geez, I think I would have. It would have been hard to miss. This is a pretty excited time, and I'm almost sure I would have noticed if a towel was across her.
Well, this towel was laying right across her abdomen, the abdomen and upper thighs area.
Well, then I must have, either I put it there or the medic put it there, but maybe I did as I was covering my wife. I really don't,
I don't want to talk you into anything.
No, I know. You see, that's what happens now.
I don't want to do,
Everyone, I mean, I've talked, only two people know the whole story aside from you people. But in telling them, some things, sound funny after a while. And I'm not sure whether, one time I remember Ron Harrison, who got involved with this thing and was around all the time, he heard most of it. And he asked me a couple of things about it. I remember when I told him that my mother said it wasn't exactly what I,
might have said to her.
Right. And in other words, they reacted a little different. And so I really don't know how many times I've been talked into it. Of course, the newspaper they had me saying things that everyone said to me. Well, now they kept saying, hit him again and stuff like that. I'm not sure. I don't think I ever heard that.
Well, we're in the same track because I haven't read the newspapers about it, so I'm not coming into this with any preconceived ideas about what's been said or not said because I don't know. So this is why we're asking you to be as specific as you can.
right?
The male assailants, did they make any sounds or words?
I don't know. I don't remember.
By the way, how did they act? What was their motivation?
What was their motivation?
Yeah. What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah.
How many times have I thought about this? The only thing I can possibly come up with is that this was, and I'm not a believer in the faith. I mean, it just seems to me that it had to be a chance thing. You know, the ifs are what's killing me now. If I had checked that back door, maybe, I don't know, even know if it was pried or whether it was open. Usually it's locked.
It's normally locked and...
Oh, yeah. And we're not real strict about that. Like my mother had never locked a door in her whole life. And so I'm always real casual about it. But Colette usually locks the door. And sometimes I know, like late at night, if I get up and use the little bathroom and just check the door, it will be open. The kids have gone in and out during the day when she was doing wash in there and didn't bother locking it again. So, if I had checked the darn door maybe at 2 o'clock when I went to bed, who's to say, you know? I don't know.
You didn't check it?
No. Normally I don't have around and check doors and windows and stuff like that. I never even think like that.
What were you doing before Colette went to bed? What transpired in the house that evening? She went to school. Right. Did you have any work that night or hobbies or anything that you did outside the house?
No, the kids and I were lying on the living room floor watching TV, and when they went to bed, I just read for a while. Nothing. I think I was reading one of my mysteries, a Mike Hammer mystery, I think.
What time did Colette come home?
She got home it was a little late. Usually she's home about 10 after 9. I think it was about 25 to 10 or something. I don't know. She had to drop off one of the girls in the class or something. I'm not,
Were the girls still up?
No, I think they'd gone to bed. It's late, I know. But Kimmy stayed up late with me.
So what happened? What transpired on this evening?
Nothing spectacular. I mean, she came home and probably had usually my wife would have a little brandy or one liqueur or something while we sat there. You know, it was our time of the day, sort of, and we just usually sat there and watched TV or read or something in the living room together. That's all I remember. I mean, nothing spectacular happened.
Did you have a drink that night?
I don't remember, honestly. I usually didn't by myself. You know, once in a while my wife did by herself, but I never did by myself. I might have had a liqueur with her, but I don't remember. And if it was a Kahlua or something like that, one of those sweet liqueurs. But I don't remember having one, so I probably didn't.
Do you know what time this happened? This is what I want. To build events here.
Right.
If I can. Now, she came home at 25 to 10?
Right. Roughly then.
And the kids were probably in bed.
Right. I remember she came home a little late because she had missed half the show that's on at 9 o'clock. It isn't Tom Jones. It's some show that's on Monday, a Monday night at 9 o'clock.
Glenn Campbell?
Glenn Campbell? We either watch Glenn Campbell or Johnny Cash or Tom Jones. Those 3 shows during the week. So one of those 3, whichever is on Monday night. I remember telling her that she had missed the best part of it, and she said she had to drop someone off or something. I stopped at 7-Eleven or something, and that was it. We didn't do anything unusual.
Did you watch any of the late shows?
Probably not. I think just up to the news, I turned it off. I usually don't watch TV except the sports or those 3 shows I was telling you.
Well, try to think. Try to think about this. Did you watch the Johnny...
Oh, yeah. I was watching the Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson?
That's right.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I was watching Johnny Carson. That's right.
Was Colette there with you?
No. She started with me. That's right, she started it with me and she went to bed. She didn't finish. I finished watching the Johnny Carson show, and then she was already in bed by that time it was over. She just watched the beginning.
Any particular reason why she didn't stay there with you?
She was pregnant and she's getting more sleepy, more sleep when she's pregnant.
Did she have any problem sleeping?
No.
There was some talk earlier about her having taken some medication of some kind.
Bendectin for nausea.
What was it again?
Bendectin.
Bendectin.
Right. It's just a nausea pill for pregnant women. She took one every night.
Before going to bed?
Right.
What's the major component? What's in it?
I think a meclizine derivative. I don't know. It's one of the safe ones for pregnant women, and all the OB men here give it, and that's what I used for her. I think it is a meclizine derivative, which doesn't mean anything to me.
How many of these did she use?
Would she have taken anything else?
I don't think so. Now, I usually, sometimes if she couldn't sleep, she'd take a Benadryl, which is an antihistamine. It's really for rashes and hives, but it's safe, and it makes people a little sleepy. And she might have taken one of those, but I didn't know about it if she did, because we usually had some in a small medicine cabinet for that reason, because it's a safe sleeping pill.
She might have, but you don't know if she did.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Well, she went to bed. What time did she go to bed?
Well, probably 11:30. No, 12 o'clock, because I remember she started watching Johnny. Now that you mention it, the Johnny Carson show with me.
Do you know what time that comes on? Midnight?
No, it comes on, I think, at 11:30, and she watched the beginning of it. And I think she was probably in bed by 12 o'clock.
She was in bed by 12 o'clock.
Right.
Now, had she changed clothes prior to going to bed?
Yeah. She always comes out and sits around with me and in her pajamas. I mean, I say, yeah. This is just because she did it every night. I don't remember her walking in and changing clothes because I was sitting there reading. Like all husbands do, they forget to notice a lot of things, but she always came out and sat down and usually had a liqueur and then go to bed. That was her routine.
So she was in bed by midnight?
Right.
And maybe she took a What was this?
Bendectin, Bendectin.
Bendectin, that you known about?
Right.
Because she took it every night?
Right.
And she might have taken a Benadryl?
Right.
She might have had a liqueur and probably did?
Right.
So she went to bed? Did you finish watching the Johnny Cash show?
Johnny Carson, right?
Johnny Carson, I'm sorry.
Right.
And then what did you do?
I read my Mike Hammer mystery.
What else did you do?
Nothing?
Did you wash dishes?
Yeah, I did. I washed the dishes for her.
Okay. I'm not sharpshooting you now.
No. I understand that. But that's right. I did. Once in a while, she hated dishes. The only thing she hated more was ironing, and she left them. She'd feel terrible the next day because she's left them. And she usually leaves them again until night, and they'd just pile up. So every once in a while, when I'm feeling good, I do them for her. And she thinks I'm a big hero the next morning. So I did them. That's right.
Did you do anything else? Did you listen to any music or anything like that? Or did you read?
Now, I usually played some records when I was reading light stuff, and this was light stuff. They asked me that in the hospital. I don't remember playing anything. When I'm lazy, I just put the FM on, and I probably had the FM on. I don't remember playing any records specifically.
Did you get up and turn it off before you went to sleep?
Yeah. I mean, I usually didn't go to sleep with it on. I fell asleep on the floor often with it on. But when I go to sleep on the couch or in the bed, I turn it off. As a matter of fact, it was FM because I remember I had to get up several times to get a station that kept fading out. My thing that's supposed to stick the channel in wasn't working on my $700 set. And I got up several times and had to get a new station because it'd keep fading. That's right. So I was I was listening to FM.
And not records?
And not records, right?
I'd like to get down to some other things here that might be a little bit more close to home. I'm sorry, but I have to ask you about them. And that's these... We found some weapons and some things that we think were used around the house. And we need to know if they're yours. Because if they come from your house.
Uh-huh.
We must know because if they don't come from your house, we have to know where they did come from. You understand that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, we found this knife you took out of your wife's chest is curve-bladed. In fact, I don't think it's a manufactured knife. I think it was curved because somebody used it to pry something open or stepped on it or something along that line. Does this seem like something you might have had around the house? A paring knife?
With a curved blade?
Yeah.
A bent blade.
Bent or curved?
No. I mean, not that I know of, no. I didn't know of anything like that. It would stand out if it was,
Let me show you a picture.
All right. It doesn't, my wife had some paring knives. I don't recognize this one in particular. Especially that would have been, I know we didn't have one lying around because, I would throw something like that out. I wouldn't, geez, my wife would keep it forever, but I wouldn't. And if we had a knife with a bent blade, I don't know about it. I didn't see it and I don't recognize this.
You say your wife had some around.
Well, sure. She would, she'd cook in the kitchen and she had plenty of knives lying around.
How many paring knives did she have that you know?
Oh, a couple. She had one with a funny 2 points on the end of the blade and I could never figure out what it was for, with a serrated edge. Not a serrated, a wavy. And she had a long one with one of those wavy things, and she had a couple little, little paring knives.
Well, I mean, specifically paring knives. You say a couple. Might she have had 3 or 4, or...
Well, I'd just grab a steak knife in the drawer. I don't know, quite honestly, because one of her drawers she just kept all full of junk. And no, not 3 or 4. She probably had this white-handled one. There's a long white-handled one and probably 1 or 2 others of the steak knife type. I usually went and used a steak knife. I never could find a paring knife.
There was another one that we found. That would be this one here. You see now, that's pretty distinctive. It says Old Hickory on there.
I don't know this one. I would have seen the Old Hickory sign if we had that around. I don't know that one. How big is that, 17 centimeters?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Well, I didn't see any with an Old Hickory sign anyway.
Well, it's almost 7 inches long. The blade's 3 inches.
I don't know.
Can you say that it is not from your house? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, unless she got a new knife or something that I didn't know about, but I never saw that. And usually, I had rough idea of what was there, and I would have seen knife with Old Hickory on it. I didn't see that. I never saw that. So I can say that that's not from my house.
You did some building around there, didn't you?
Right.
Some shelves and that sort of thing.
You saw my abortions.
Didn't you build shed for your pony out there too?
I didn't build the whole thing. Most of it was there. I renovated it a little bit, right? And
Is that the one that sits nearest to the drive?
the little one in the pasture, it's just for 1 horse, and it has low doorway. Low doorway for the pony, right?
Yeah, I guess that's the one. Just right close to the house there, all that business out there is the barn?
No. If you have a sheet of paper, I'll show you where it is. You mean there where the horse is kept?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you come in this is the fence. You come in the driveway this way. Here's the guy's trailer.
Right.
Here's his house.
Okay.
The first pasture on the right, it's right here, and the shed's here. This is the guy's barn.
Yeah, okay, that's the one.
Right.
So you had some scrap lumber around there, and
Right.
we think that this club you originally thought was baseball bat or something might have come from around the house or something like that. In fact, I'll show it to you. I don't know if pieces of wood will mean anything to you from photograph, but there's paint on it. In fact, we had that you might have used this around the house.
I never saw it.
People use pieces of wood to pry open doors
Right.
and windows
Right.
for one thing and another.
I don't, recognize this. Now, I always had some extra lumber around in the little well outside the back of my house, but I don't, how long is this? It's about 3 feet?
Yeah, about 3 feet.
Not specifically, no, I don't recognize this.
Well, think about the stock you used to make this shelving from. There was,
What size lumber is this?
it's about 1 by 1 5/8 by 1 1/2.
2 by 2.
Right.
I didn't have any 2 by 2s. I used 4 2 by 4s that I took out of the old 3rd Med Supply area. When we broke it up, they were gonna burn it all and send it to the trash. And I just used my 2 by 4s and cut them down.
Did you make the shelving in Kimmy's closet
Right,
down below there?
right.
There's a piece of wood there, very similar to this, very similar.
Maybe it was around, I don't specifically recognize it from this, from the photograph.
Did you have an ice pick?
I don't think I had any 2 by 2s, and this is 2 by 2. I know I didn't have any 2 by 2s specifically cut that way. There was 4 by 4s, I think, in scraps, 2 by 4s, and just scraps of lumber.
Did you have an ice pick around the house? Is that your ice pick?
No, I didn't have an ice pick.
You did not have an ice pick around the house?
Not that I know of, no.
Did you go into the drawers with the silverware that morning?
Any time during that morning. Oh, you mean the morning that it happened?
Yes.
Not that I remember.
Did you clean yourself up in the sink there? The kitchen sink or anything there?
I don't think so. I remember washing my hands off, in my compulsive manner, but I thought it was in the bathroom where I was doing that from. And
It looks like it was in the bathroom.
I don't think I used the kitchen sink at all. I used the phone in there. And maybe when I was talking on the phone,
What is the deepest you went into the kitchen?
Christ, I don't know. I probably just stayed there to talk on the phone. That's all I remember, just talking on the phone.
If we can drift back again, you say during the initial assault you heard screams. Were they screams? Were they screams or were they...
Words?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what?
My wife was saying, Jeff, why are they doing this to me?
Were you still on the couch then?
Right.
Did these screams continue or did they cut out?
I don't know. They asked me in the hospital, and I don't remember any cutoff time specifically. They could or could not have continued them, while I was wrestling. I really don't remember once the struggle was on. I remember sitting up and hearing them. I remember hearing my wife say, Jeff, why are they doing this to me? Help me. And I heard her screaming, and I think I heard Kimmy, the older girl, said, Daddy, saying, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy.
You fought your way to the entrance to the hallway?
Yeah, you asked me that 15 times, right?
Could you see down the hallway? Did you see anything going on down at the end of the hallway where you were at?
No.
What lights were on in the house? Kitchen light?
Kitchen light was on. I left that on. And usually we left the bathroom light on. The big bathroom in the hallway, so it's shining. So the hallway was little lit for the kids. And I think that was on too, when they woke up in the night. And
You said that when you woke up, you could see your wife.
well, I could see, yeah.
You could see in there?
Right.
You could see your wife. Was that because that light was on in there?
Well, I didn't say that I could see my wife when I woke up.
Well, again, I'm not...
No.
Sharpshooting. I just want to know.
When I woke up, the first thing I thought of was, I'm ashamed to say, myself. I mean, when I woke up, I said, Christ, I'm going into shock. And then I realized that everything was quiet. And I started to remember that I heard screaming. So I really didn't even look ahead. I went into the bedroom and then I saw my wife. In other words, I didn't lay on the floor and look up, if that's what you mean, and see her. I remember as I got up, I was lying there and I was thinking, Christ, I'm going into shock. And see, that's the first thing that hits me when I was chilling. My teeth were actually literally chattering. And the light was on. And it isn't real bright when just the bathroom light is on.
Was it the overhead light that was on?
I don't think so. I think it was just the bathroom light. Now, maybe I turned the overhead light on. I don't remember. But when I went into the bedroom, and in others' words, obviously, as I got into the bedroom, I could see my wife well, but I didn't, I don't remember lying in there and looking up and seeing my wife in the bedroom.
Can you give us a better description of these people that you saw?
I wished I had Polaroid. All I can say is everyone seemed moderate height. This is ridiculous, I know to you, but everyone seemed normal height. The middle guy, I remember, was shorter. Not abnormally shorter, but the middle person was the shortest of the three people. Now, again, this is so quick that it might have just been the way he was standing there or he was bent forward. He seemed shorter than the other two, maybe 5'8" instead of 5'10", something like that. I don't really remember anything distinctive. I don't remember long hair on these people. And this is a little hard for me to figure out. I don't understand, who, why, or what was there, and for what reason. And if they were on, LSD or something, they're supposed to be hippies. They're not always. I mean, I've seen a lot of clean-cut special forces guys.
How do hippies react? Not hippies, but people. How do people react when they are under the influence of LSD?
Well, anybody...
Are they capable of carrying out something like this? Coming to your house, out of all these other houses? As you say, it's...
Well, now you're getting to why they came to my house. If they...
Well, I'm not interested in why they came to your house just for the moment. Let's say it was matter of fate, okay?
All right.
It had to be some house.
Right.
Why not yours? Why not?
Right. Okay. All right. In other words, can they do this?
Can they carry this out, all this business?
I've seen many patients that I felt were... Now, you don't always know what they've taken.
Well, let's say LSD for the moment.
Okay. Well, again, now, person will come in the emergency room and say he has taken LSD and he's having an acute anxiety reaction, paranoid, and he's, seeing people that he's afraid or anything. That could be LSD, it could be speed, it could be mesc, any of the amphetamine type things, or mescaline. And very often the kids don't know what they've taken, so you have no way of knowing, but they always say LSD. And I treated one 2 nights ago at Cape Fear, and this guy was not 2 nights ago, last week, and this guy was capable of anything, I'm sure. He was extremely agitated and wild, and all you had to do was move, and he'd jump up, and he was very paranoid. People were attacking him, and he had to defend himself.
Okay, let's branch away from that for just a minute. The people that are taking amphetamines, uppers...
Right.
We've got 4 of them now that we know about in your house. They're on something, we think. This girl was talking about acid.
LSD, right?
It could be, as you say, anything. Could be peyote buttons for all we know, right?
Right. Well, I don't know what that means. Yeah, I've heard about them.
They're excited. They're doing something that's emotionally exciting to them. They'd be jumping around wild, wouldn't they? There'd be a lot of hyperaction here. Is this correct?
Yeah, I agree with you. Most of the people I've seen on these drugs, they're not steady and cool by any means. Usually they're paranoid and anxious and,
When they do something, it's sort of in frenzied kind of way, isn't it?
well, I don't know. That's kind of, I don't know. I mean, this guy's walked out a Womack ninth floor window. Apparently, just walked out the window. He wasn't in any frenzy. He was going to go for a walk. No, he jumped out. He was very frightened and,
Was he?
he thought the doctor was,
Well,
and he jumped out the window.
that sounds more like LSD, right?
Okay. Yeah, usually you don't look normal. I mean, anyone can tell when someone, not anyone, but almost anyone can tell when someone's having bad reaction, right?
Okay, this is the point. This is why I'm asking you for your opinion on this.
Right?
You woke up, Captain MacDonald, and you saw 4 people, and you hear your wife somewhere.
Right?
You heard your daughter, right?
Right?
There must have been at least 2 more.
Well, this is what I can't figure out. Now, I've gone over this hundreds of times in my own mind, literally all night long, many nights, and I don't, there's so many unanswered questions to me. I assume they came in that back door. They had to come through there, through my wife's bedroom, our bedroom. And I don't understand why, by the time they got to me, that I still heard screaming. Or were there more people involved than 4?
If there was this, 4 people are a lot of people. 4 strangers.
I know.
In house your size are a lot of people.
I know.
6, minimum of 6,
I know.
or that much more. And there should be.
I know.
In my experience, his experience and his, there should be mess in your house. Not
Right.
living day-to-day mess. I don't mean that.
No, I know what you mean.
There should be busted furniture and broken mirrors and bashed-in walls and
Oh, well,
lots of this. There should be lots of.
you people have more experience than I do, but I wouldn't necessarily expect that if someone is attacked when they're sleeping. You might not get broken.
Heavy things knocked off the table. There aren't things out of place.
Well, I don't know. What?
Does this suggest anything to you? Like, maybe this group of people
Knew the inside of the house?
either knew the inside of the house or weren't.
Or weren't? Yeah, we're being careful, sure. Well, this was, brought up to me before, and I don't know. The incongruous thing to me are a couple things. First of all, I heard screaming, and I would assume if they came in that way, they would have done these things as they came down. And I should have been awakened earlier, even before they got to me. That's one thing. And the second thing is the number of people involved. If, when I woke up and I heard screaming, now maybe she was already wounded, maybe they assumed she was dead, okay, just assume that. And then they left and came down the hallway. And then, she was able to start screaming. That's what I thought. That's one possibility. And the other thing was these people seemed, in the little while that I saw them, they weren't hyper or anything. Now, that's drug reaction sometimes, though. I mean, some of these people have very dull affects. And as a matter of fact, when you interview people, it's one of the things you look for, people that don't seem to get any rise either way, just sort of plod along. But if you take an amphetamines or bad LSD reaction, they shouldn't be apathetic. They should be, psychotic in nature and a little wilder. So there you are. Those are the 3 things that I can't figure out in my own mind.
Well, the other The other problem I have, immediate problem, is motive.
Right?
We've got to establish motive for this thing, and
Right.
I don't see one. There's nothing missing from your house, not even vandalism.
Right.
Captain MacDonald, there's nothing missing. You have a lot of things in your home that people would like to steal.
They were nice, I know.
Nice to take, no matter what their reason was, if there was. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. They could have come in for that reason and then realizing what they'd done just left. But I know, I agree with you. It's very likely. I don't know.
Can you give us any help along this line at all?
Geez, I wish I could. I just can't imagine that I've ever offended anyone enough, unless they're psychotic, or in other words, an abnormal response, to have something like this to happen.
And then one person commits at least 5 others to his cause. Right. Other people. And to have no one break down, in the case. No one come forth and feel bad or read the newspapers and say, Jesus, I know some people and I saw them Tuesday morning and they were all bloody or something.
So, I agree with you. I don't know. I'd sleep a little easier, I'll tell you that.
Captain, you have a lot of drugs in your house.
I know.
Why? Why do you have a lot of drugs there?
Oh, I just got something or everything in case anyone ever asks me, and Johnny on the spot. Very often I'd suture people, and I took care of half the neighborhood, and nothing there was controlled. I was careful about that, I didn't have any controlled drugs or anything like that. Everything was stuff there wouldn't be any problem with and no one should be after for any reason. And I just had, like, for instance, if we were going on camping trip, I was all ready to make up nice little M3 kit with that, all the possibilities involved. But that was the only reason. All this came about when the 3rd disbanded, and they had boxes and boxes of stuff they were just going to burn. And I thought that was stupid, so I just took a couple bottles of everything and was going to make up my own aid kit, for my car and camping and stuff. But I know it looked little excessive, I'm sure.
It looked more than little excessive. It looked real excessive, frankly. I'm being more than frank with you as you're being frank with me, I hope.
Yeah, well...
And we understand that you were sending these things to people, too.
Right, to my in-laws.
Okay. Were you sending anything to anybody around here that would suggest...
To
someone that...
The only people I did that for was my mother. My grandmother and Mildred Kassab, my mother-in-law, and her sister Helen. Helen Madison.
What kind of drugs were you sending?
Oh, thyroid medicine, diuretics, to make them lose fluid. Quinamine, it's heart pill. My grandmother has Parkinson's. She was taking Parkinson's pills and high blood pressure pills. My mother-in-law was on diet pills, but that's controlled in the Army, so I haven't got many through the Army for her.
What kind of pills was...
Amphetamine sulfate, 15 milligrams. But, you got to sign your life away in the Army, so she's had to get her own since I got in the Army. Let's see, high blood pressure, Parkinson's, that's it basically. Couple different types of high blood pressure. My aunt takes one type. My aunt, Colette's aunt, Helen Madison, takes one type, and Mildred takes another type. My grandmother takes another type, so it involved a lot. And my mother-in-law takes hormone, estrogen.
Most of the pill heads I know.
What's that?
Pill heads. Take anything. I had one guy tell me, if I don't know what it is, I take 8 and I get something out of it. Either an upper or downer. That's the way he thinks. How I met the gentleman.
Uh-huh.
Ornades, as I recall. He got reaction. I don't know what it did for him, but he was happy.
Pretty hard from Ornids. It makes you a little sleepy.
So, again, this This points back to these people being in the house, perhaps with...
Ulterior motive. Yeah, not many people knew I had that. Only couple. People knew that, that I had, so far as my neighbors, knew that whenever she needed pills, I gave them to her. But I don't think she knew that I had them in the house. She probably thought I got them out of the dispensary at the time, stuff like that. But I can't think of anyone except one guy who's in Vietnam that he brought his girlfriend over one time, and I went through the drug collection trying to find something for her psoriasis.
Was he there?
Yeah.
Who was that?
Geez, I can't remember. Let me see now. He's Hoffman. Larry Hoffman. Played quarterback for our football team.
Where might he be now?
He's on his way to Vietnam.
So he is still in the service?
Right.
Is he medical officer?
No, he was in the either civil affairs or psyops, something like that. Intelligence, one of the ancillary things for the 3rd. And he brought after football game one night, he brought his girlfriend over and she reaction on her hands. So I had an old big box in the bottom of my closet. They were all samples that we had brought from Chicago, as a matter of fact. Chicago to New Jersey to here. And I went through the whole thing and couldn't find any. And I think he was standing there with me, probably didn't know what I had, but I told him they were just samples. There was vitamins and garbage, But he's certainly straight. He's no pillhead. And
what about his girlfriend?
They were living in trailer then on Bragg Boulevard, and she went away. She went to Wisconsin or Maryland or someplace.
Do you remember her name?
It wasn't his girlfriend, it was his wife. His wife, right?
It wasn't his girlfriend. It was.
No, it was his wife, right. I remember her now. Mrs. Hoffman.
Larry Hoffman?
Right. Now, some of the guys in the unit, of course, know what I took out of the 3rd, They gave them to me, but,
You would recognize them?
What's that?
You would recognize them?
Oh, yeah. Anyone that I'd worked with, sure. I didn't see anyone I knew. My supply officer and Captain Warren and people I worked in the office with who knew that I took them.
How about the enlisted people that you've worked with?
Well, like I said, the only people that would know were the supply people. Medical supply, not S4. Medical supply for the 3rd, because it was we were in the same office, same building. And so they'd bring it to me and put it on my desk, and I'd put it in box next to my desk and take it home with me that night,
Yeah.
But I'd see him all the time, and that's, he's working in the center now, Sergeant Spears, but he kept telling me the CID was going to get me because I had OD-colored knapsacks, but they were going to burn them, and I said it was ridiculous. As a matter of fact, he came to see me after this was over, and he said, I'll bet you opened few eyes when they went into my storage shed. That's in the back because I had an, OD medical chest and those knapsacks.
Yeah, well, it was an eye-opener.
It sure was.
Captain MacDonald, there are some other things that we found here in the house. Some other questioning we have. We'll present them to you, and if you can explain some of these things, fine. If you can't, we'll just have to worry about that. I want to get with you on this thing. Because this is like money in the bank to you. This is real important to you. For example, let's start with one thing. This pajama top you were wearing, okay? Now let me back up just a little and give you some depth here. Some background. We have a team of laboratory technicians in your house for 5 days. These people are very thorough and they're very professional. We gave them the benefit of all our experience.
Right.
But not knowing anything about what might have happened in there. As far as what you saw or didn't see or...
Right.
Whether you were there or not. We just took everything we could find of an apparent evidentiary value.
Okay.
All right. So, when I say something is so, I want you to know that I'm right.
Okay.
If I'm not right, if I don't know I'm right, I won't say it.
All right.
Okay? Now again, your jacket.
Pajama top.
Pajama top. Now, we've taken this thing and we've examined it under laboratory conditions. We know what it's made of. We know what kind of fiber is in it. We know what kind of threads are in it. We know that it's old.
Right.
It's been around a long time. We know that it hasn't been repaired to the extent that there are foreign threads in it. That's
Right.
okay. Now, we have found fibers and threads in various places in the house. And one of the most puzzling things to me personally is that we found fibers from this jacket under Colette's body, strung out under her body. And I'm interested in how they came to be there.
Shaken off. I don't know. Maybe, do these things shed? Are they laying all around the house? I mean, I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
You mean they're big fibers?
Yeah,
Not
not microscopic and
Not fuzz.
fuzz.
Number, it would be fibers and threads.
I don't know.